All right. Hello and welcome to Real Life Wednesdays. We are talking with producer, songwriter, musician Tim Lauer out of Nashville, Tennessee. So thank you so much for doing this, Tim. We appreciate it. Oh, you know what? I muted Tim. I muted the guy that we're supposed to be. Hold on. How do I do this? Oh my goodness. Hold on.
Here you go. I'm on.
Okay,
Got
good.
me now? Okay.
Yep, I do. Well, Tim,
Turn my
thank you
cell
so
phone off.
much. Thank you so much for doing this.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome. First things first, we should probably just start with. Can you just give a little just overview about everything you do? I can give you. I think everyone here has seen the bio about how you
Yeah.
compose, produce, and engineer. You arrange, but how would you describe what you do?
Well, honestly, it is varied depending on the season. Like sometimes it goes in decade blocks, sometimes it goes in year blocks, sometimes it goes in month blocks, sometimes it goes in hour blocks. So I've been able to stick around and provide for my family and you know support a career doing a lot of things. I enjoy doing a lot of things, but quite honestly, I've had to do a lot of things. I don't think until now there wasn't one thing that I did that would have supported the my existence. So I would do some string arranging, some songwriting, some producing, some playing, some mixing,
Mhm.
um,
And
and
you're a song. I mean, like you play a lot of instruments, and I know that you've played on thousands of records. Did you start as a player, or did you start as a songwriter, or did you start?
I started as a drummer, and then all through high school, I had 4-track recorder in my room and synth and piano and guitar and drums and bass. I had a paper out and I bought all that gear myself. And then I played different brass instruments. Every year I would play a different instrument in the band.
Mhm.
So I kind of went through low brass and mainly low brass stuff. But yeah,
And when you came, so after school, you went straight to after high school, you went straight to music school.
I went. Yeah, I this as soon the like 2 days after high school was over, I went on the road with the show band that like had horn sections and singers, and we're doing like conventions for Chicago Sanitation Department or Texas Instruments, and it would be like their employee party, and then we'd go and it would be like the guys country medley, and then the guys would do Oak Ridge Boys song, and then a Willie Nelson song, and then the girls country medley, and somebody come out with fake boobs to do Dolly Parton, and it was very much. But then we would do like a show medley where we do Broadway songs, and
I'm
so it
gu-
was like,
oh, I'm guessing that that helped you be like really flexible as a player, like just.
yeah, it was great because we had such a wide variety of music, and it was very arranged, and it was like reading a Broadway show book down because there's all time signature changes and key changes, and so you had to keep it very much together. And I think I got when I think about what this company was making off of us, I think I made $100 a week,
Uh-huh.
and I got $10 a day per diem, which there was cash in my pocket, which I usually spend at McDonald's for at lunch, and then I'd have some extra money, and then we would eat like the um, convention party food at night.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always a struggle at the very start of 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 your career. And in fact, a lot of the students here may not know this. I may not have mentioned it, but when I started in the studio, Tim was actually the first producer to give me a job outside of the studio I was working.
Wow.
Tim, you were playing keyboards on something, and I was writing a string chart, and I said, "Hey, can you check out this string chart?" Because I knew that you arranged for a lot of people. And I was like, "Can you check this out and see whether it's okay?" And you're like, "Yeah, it's okay. So you can read music, huh? And you're an engineer as well?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, and Tim, you said, "Hey, I've got a project for you to work on. You were producing. We were doing the Lighthearted record uh,
Oh yeah,
some people that you had written.
lightheaded, and he's
Lightheaded,
gone on. Dustin has gone on to be one of the most successful sync artists of all time.
which is fantastic. Sync artists. Could you explain what a sync artist is for the people that are?
Well, a guy who I don't know that. Well, I guess have you ever heard of Zayd Wolf? That's his name. But it's like a band that doesn't tour and doesn't necessarily get a record deal. The whole goal of the music is to land advertisements, film, television, music that goes with picture, as opposed to developing fans like a traditional label artist would. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. We'll come back to this in a little bit, but I'm curious to see like after you got out of high school, then you were in this band, and then from that band you went to college after that.
Yeah. Then I went straight to Belmont. I was a drummer, and I had sold my drums because I didn't have enough room in the car. And then I got there, and they said that I had to pick a primary instrument, either vocal or piano. And I felt very unsure about the singing thing. And so I said, well, I'll do piano. So I did piano because I was going to be a drummer. And they said, well, if you do something about, forget what it was. But anyway, I ended up doing piano as my primary and then drums as my secondary instrument.
So you didn't play piano at all before you got to Belmont, or you did a little bit? Because
I
Tim is a
did, but
track
I
player.
I would have considered myself. If he said, "What do you do?" I would have said, "I'm a drummer." At
Oh,
that point,
okay.
yeah.
We have a couple
And
of multi-instrumentalists here in the room too. So,
the thing that really helped me on the piano was I started playing for voice lessons. Every vocal major would have a weekly lesson,
mhm.
and they need an accompanist. So I would like practice with them a couple of times and go to their lesson and accompany them. And they gave me like $10 a week or something like that. And so I did a bunch of those things, and so I had to learn all these tunes and get better at the piano.
Cool. Were you a performance major, or were you a songwriting
I
major?
was a comp and arranging.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And so I'm guessing that's how you got into songwriting, or when you got out of college, like first job out of college, what were you?
Well,
Was it
actually got a gig in college playing with a group called the Girls Next Door, which is like a girl group who had come out of Belmont.
Hmm.
And so I was already doing weekends with them, and then I played with this guy named Jim Ed Brown on the Opry, old like retired, not retired, but over 60 uh, Grand Ole Opry guy. And so I was playing the Grand Ole Opry and then also going out on weekends. So I was already sort of tugging on the time schedule thing with working already
Hmm.
my senior year.
Well, that's
Uh,
cool. And that job, like, because when I met you, you were full on session player slash songwriter. What? So how did you get from playing those gigs to getting into like songwriting
yeah,
as a
well,
profession?
I let's see. I guess as a musician, I was um, I was playing with this a song like a singer songwriter, like sort of in the New York Suzanne Vega kind of tradition, and I just thought her songs were really cool. And it
That
was like cool. It was Chris Falk. It was like cool like girl folk kind of stuff. And I was playing pump organ and organ and accordion, and I loved her songs. So I started writing with her, and she had a publishing deal with Tom Collins Music. So I was writing down there, and we'd write a song, then go into his office and play it for him and get feedback. And I'd go to the writers' meetings, and even though I wasn't a signed writer, I would, and do go to demo sessions. I think I started playing on her demo sessions as a musician, which kind of was a good training ground for doing sessions. And then when I met my wife Angela, she was a songwriter, and we started writing together. And she went out to get a publishing deal, and then they said, who's this? Is this your brother or what? She says, no, my husband. And they said, does he want a deal too? And so she said, "Do you want a deal too?" I said, "I don't even know what that means." And so I had a meeting with them, and I was like, "This sounds great. Sign me up."
Man, who was that? Who was that with? The publishing deal, your first publishing deal?
That was with Sony Tree.
Okay. Wow, that's wonderful.
It was just called Tree then.
Hmm. Yeah, by the way, this is I don't know if you know this, but did I ever tell you when I busted my face at Sony Tree?
No,
I was doing a
in the
record.
studio.
Yeah, I was singing with on the Big and Rich record, and they've got those big plate glass
Yeah.
walls in between. I didn't know they were there. I was so excited to sing, and I ran into it,
Oh
and
no.
I cut my eyebrow, and it was bleeding. I had this big pool of blood
Oh,
on my shirt, and Big Kenny was like, "We got to get you to the emergency room," and I was like,
no way.
"Honestly, Kenny, this is probably the biggest record I'll ever sing on. So if it's all the same to you, I'll just hold on to my face and I'll sing my parts."
Wow.
So I did it.
That's incredible.
I ended up getting on this song with John Legend. Is the singers?
Wow.
They're like Big Kenny, John Rich, John Legend, and me for some reason. But it's called
Incredible.
Infinity. And while we were listening to the playback, he's like, "Hey, Mark, if I were you, I wouldn't even sew it up. I'd just make it a little worse because I don't mess I don't mess with a man who's got a scar on his face."
That's
And I was like,
so good.
"Yeah, Kenny, you're crazy, and I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
that." But
Yeah.
yeah, but in any case, Sony Tree, and then you were also like at the same time you've got your publishing deal. You're also going on the road with I mean, you went on the road with Winona, with
Yeah,
Amy
Winona Judd,
Grant.
Amy Grant. There was a lot of different people. So, and I was going on the road, and then there were certain songwriters at Tree who were started using me on sessions,
Okay.
and so it was kind of through songwriting that I got sessions, um,
Oh,
because of the people who were our friends that were and I would, I started just doing playing on one song that maybe was a co-writer on, or overdubbing one part, and then I, you know, started being part of the crew that grew a little bit.
very cool. Very cool. So, and let's just keep well, actually, let's take a pause from the bio for a second. While we're talking about songwriting, we have a lot of songwriters in the room, a lot of singer
Hmm.
songwriters. And so when you are writing a song, like when you start a song, do you have a certain process that you follow? Do you start with a catchy chorus? Do you start with an idea? Do you start with a vibe or a
Mm,
mood? Is there like a lick that you have? Do you choose an instrument with a weird sound and go from there, or is it different every time? How do you
I
do?
mean, I've probably done everything that you just listed, but I'm trying to think, like, it's changed a lot over the years, because now I write very much to a brief. Like somebody says, I need a, and it's usually for uh, television or advertising, but we want a certain song that does these certain things,
Mhm.
and then I just kind of, based on experience and just skill set and whatever, I just kind of do it. When I was 23, that would have seemed terrible and unacceptable. You
Mhm.
know, I would get, I was right. I had a publishing deal, and they would send out a pitch sheet, and they would say, "Here's the artists that are looking." And you get this long list of artists. Here's what they want, and I'd look at it and I go, like, I'm really gonna write a ballad for some Martina McBride. I don't feel like that today. Today I'll be like, she wants one of those. Here you go. What do you think? So it's changed a lot for me. I think when you're younger, I think it's really good and healthy to write from your present inspiration, right from your heart, and write out of pure joy and curiosity. Um, and then after you write, hundreds of songs, you start to feel less precious about it, and kind of know what you're able to do. So, and I don't think there's a good way to start. I mean, like, my wife writes a lot of songs, and she usually comes in with a title, and I rarely have a title.
Hmm.
Um, Usually talk, and then somebody says, you know, I want to write a song about this, and then I'll say, like, okay, what were you thinking? Like, and they start talking. I go, that's a great first line. That's a great opening line. and then maybe start and sing the opening line and go, oh, now we start writing a verse, and then you start seeing where is this going to lead, and like what is this, what is the hook, what is the song all about, and it shows up later. That's usually how I do it.
Mm.
um, but some people come in with an idea, and they'll say, this is my song idea, and this is the first part of the chorus, and then that's a jumping off point. So because I'm not a singer songwriter, I tend to defer to that person, because if they're singing it, it should probably be something they feel comfortable singing.
Hmm.
So it's something that works organically, a melody and a phrasing and a key and all that works for their voice. If it's for them, even if we're pitching it to somebody else, because I want the vocal to be believable. So I'll just kind of roll with who's in the room singing at the time.
So if you're pitching a song, like let's say to Martina McBride, does that inform who you're choosing to co-write with? It's like, hey, I want
For
someone that has
sure, yeah.
her range or her kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, and this is back in the day, and I'll say something about this in a second. But yeah, when you know, this is probably why I didn't get songs cut um, very much as a staff writer, because I would look at the pitch sheet. I'm not saying this is good or bad. This is my story,
Mm.
and I was very much not into writings. Like they would say, Keith Urban wants a song like this, and I'd be like, I don't want to write junior varsity version of his last hit,
Right.
you know. Or and so I was writing things that like this sounds, let's not do that. It's so stock. It just feels so predictable.
Hmm.
You know what stock and predictable is? Commercial, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
at the time I was writing things and really happy, and honestly writing things that were unique and interesting. And I'm I did that, but unique and interesting didn't didn't keep me in a publishing deal.
Right. But I do think that ultimately it did help your career because when people would, I mean, and I don't know if you know this about yourself, but when people talk about you as a player, they're like, well, like Tim can do the standard stuff you want, but if you want an interesting part on your record, or if you want someone with ideas, you call Tim Lauer and he will give you ideas. So,
Yeah, that's very much true. And so as a musician and as a producer and as a writer, so like now, the writing can be anything from um, a song about this is going to be a great day that a mom sings to her kid for an orange juice commercial, to a heartbreak song for a drama, to a girl power. I just came back from my surgery and this is my first gig back, and I need this. What would this character, 22-year-old singer, do after her burn accident and she's back? When I did the show, Tell Me a Story. You guys heard of that thing? It was just the last season was just all that got hurt and then she comes back. So I was writing these songs that were part of her story of being insecure and then being more um, confident. So I'm kind of imagining what my daughters might need to hear from a song, or hear say to themselves, or hear from me or somebody else.
right, Tim's
So
got two teenage daughters and one preteen daughter, right?
mm,
Yeah, it's a
well, Sophie's actually, she's in her 20s now.
oh my goodness, I'm old. Man, so yeah, I remember when Sophie was just like a tot like a baby, like you could hold her. So
Yeah,
now she's 20,
yeah.
that's ridiculous. But going on that, we will definitely go to the TV stuff in a second. But as a player, like being known as a player that can kind of like come up with great parts or something interesting that people can grab onto. Um, and by the way, for all you students, Tim plays so many different instruments. He plays anything that has keys on it. Drums. He plays some guitar. He plays harmonica. He programs a whole bunch of stuff. So super flexible, which helps him get work as a producer. All of you
Mm,
production students in
yeah.
the room. But when you're considering parts, like, do you have a mindset? Do you stay out of the way, or are you there to kind of create or guide the overall mood, or do you like does it depend on
Are you talking about production or,
Yeah,
or sessions?
production or being a session player, really. Like,
Oh, as a yeah. Well, look, this is something too that I think that my answer now is something that probably is morphed through my, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, and now I'm 50. Um, so like in my 20s, I was very much the person, like Mark said, who I'm like, I'm going to bring you something unexpected. And I was determined to always play something, always lead with something other than stock, other than expected. And also maybe was responsible for knowing what was the latest, greatest, hippest, leading edge music. Like I felt like I generally listened to more music and more modern music and more a wider variety of music than a lot of the other players. So a lot of times the young songwriters and stuff would reference things that I would sort of be able to guide everybody. Like, okay, guys, they're mean this. I think what we need to do is this, and that was valuable. Um, and then honestly, over the years, I just as the music business started having making less money, people became more desperate, and there was less joy. And this is not to be a downer. I'm just telling the story. More fear, less joy, and I just sort of got the trying to bring something interesting on sessions became something that I didn't quit doing, but I was able to very quickly figure out what they really wanted. And I saw that sometimes I was wasting their time by giving something unique and interesting. And my radar became a lot more in tune that I would be able to say, they do not want hip. They do not want cool. They do not want original. They don't want interesting. When they say vibey, they don't mean it. They want something that is they don't want to be creative. They want me to be recreative.
yeah,
They don't want me to create. They just referenced a song. They want me to take the similar part, similar sound, superimpose it over their song.
right.
And I was just like, sure, there you go, and take the deal. And I just thought, man, if they're not going to be any braver, then I'm not going to do it for them, you know. And then I was always able to somehow have other projects like an indie artist or my own stuff for sync and license where I'd say, okay, all these ideas and all these things that I find more inspiring and original are going to find another outlet. And that outlet can't be for somebody's session that doesn't want it because they won't call me anymore. They're just going to say, he's holding things up. What if we would try this? What if we would try this? I just go, man, give them exactly what they're expecting.
Absolutely.
Um,
When you, but like switching from that, like being the session player who's giving people exactly what they want, to being a producer, a lot of times people are choosing you as a producer because they are expecting they may not exactly know who they are as artists. They're close, but they might be looking for you to fill in some gaps as far as like kind of creating the picture or giving them a better version of what they've got in their brain.
yeah,
Do you find when you're working, like, let's say if you're producing a singer songwriter, what's your approach with them, like as far as like getting to producing original music?
well, I think you're right, Mark. It's like the better, like, what are you imagining? Okay, great. How can we keep keep everything that's great about your vision, and then uh, make it the best version of that? And sometimes it's like shining the spotlight on everything that's great about an artist, and then things that are a little deficient or not so great, you just get those out of there. So, like, say that artist really likes singing licks, and they just can't. You're just like, let's not do that. You know, let's not highlight the fact that you can't sing licks.
But
Just
what if they
we're taking
really love? But what if they really love singing licks, even if they're bad at it? How do you?
uh then I would probably have an honest conversation that says it's my job to help you with perspective. And my perspective, I'm worried that other people will perceive you as fill in the blank, And the reason I'm worried about that is because this is how I'm perceiving you right now.
Mhm.
And I thought it would only be fair of me to tell you that. Um, might be hard to hear. And if you want to think about it and talk about it some more, I want you to know this is not my record. This is your record. So I want you to be happy. But I think part of my job is to point out some stuff that you might not see. By the way, here's something you do really, really great. Why don't we try to do more of that?
That's terrific. It's not just like the positive reinforcement, but also I don't feel like you're I don't feel like you're blowing smoke up anybody's ass. You're just saying like
No,
you're
yeah,
being
that,
honest.
yeah. And then the other thing is, I probably, if I, at this point, I think I would do enough research about, or I would have seen somebody sing live, or I would have said, "Come over and sing your songs to me in person," or if you have any YouTube videos. And if I knew these things were potential issues, I would maybe bring it up. And then if I just felt like this is going to be constant headbutting, I might feel like maybe I'm not the right person for this.
Right. So
And
what do you look for when you're choosing to work with people? Is there a certain aesthetic that you look for?
well, I'm okay. So at this point, almost I would say 90% of my job is producing, and 95% of that is not producing artists. So something that I had a very bad artist development experience where I poured many hours and thousands of dollars and a lot of creative and emotional energy into an artist who just really, who didn't honor the contract. My lawyer, he asked my lawyer to represent him to get him out of the contract. It was terrible. It was really bad. And it was just really hard for me. And I kind of thought, is there a way that I can still produce a variety of music? And I love genre free music. Is there a way that I can produce genre free music, meaning it doesn't have a narrow radio slot, where there's a lot of variety and I don't have to be beholden to artists? And then television came along.
Mm.
And so there are people singing, they're not the artists, they're the singers.
Right.
And so they sing, and I say, I'd like you to sing this way, I'd like you to sing this way, try this, try that. They leave, I comp their vocal, they do not get to approve their comp, they do not get to approve the mix. And for me, at this point in my life, I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So and this is something, if this just tweaks your, like, some, this is very an interesting thing about me. Or maybe not. I think it's interesting.
We'll be
that
the judge of that, Tim.
that I one of my personal policies is that I don't write with anybody who has a record deal, and I don't want to work with any record labels.
Mm.
And I don't write with anybody who has a publishing deal.
Oh.
So any Yeah. So if anybody has a major record deal or a major publishing deal, I'm happy to have coffee with them and happy to know them. I'm happy to get their songs pitched to me for television shows, but I can't write with them because I've seen, first of all, I don't believe enough in the label system. I'm too old, I'm too grumpy, I'm too good to put all this time into something that somebody could just pull the plug on.
Right.
If somebody came to me and said, I want you to produce this record for this label and this is the budget we have, I'd say, great, love it. But I don't pursue it at all. I don't go to A&R meetings. I don't pursue producing artists.
Yeah. We've all seen those horror stories where people will spend a year, 2 years on a record, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden they get cut, or or there's a new artist that comes down the label, and the project gets shelved, and it's because of the contracts that it's under, it's never going to see the light of day, and there's hits on that record that if they were just on the radio they would take off, but no one will ever hear those songs, and it's sad. It's not
yeah,
just sad for the producer, obviously it's sad for the artist as well because producers, honestly, like, producers have might do dozens of records, over the course of like a couple years, and but as an artist, you may only get two or three before, or you may only get one before you're like,
Half of
what, I
one,
want to
yeah.
give it out. I want to give it up.
And
Yeah.
and then the development thing, there's you do 4 songs, great tracks, and then all of a sudden another record comes out, and that artist is like, have you heard of this Billie Eilish girl? I think I want to make my music sound just like her. And you're just like, oh, you know. And so that means everything, the last 4 songs we've done are gone. They're out the window.
Hmm.
And then, and so all the other thing is like for me, I can't write with somebody who has a publishing deal because I can't wait for that publisher, Warner Brothers, Sony, whatever, to approve song. Like I'll do things for sync and licensing in television that are very they're like just fee based. Like I've been writing for an Amazon show, and I just literally get a fee, and I don't even have writer rights. Like I just say, take it, take it,
Yeah.
and I feel good about what they pay me, and they feel good about the fact that they can do anything they want with the song for the rest of the history of the world,
Right.
in perpetuity. And I don't care because I have fun doing it. It was a good day's work. And, I can't do that with somebody who has a publishing deal because that's totally antithetical to what owning a copyright is all about.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so I don't have any problem doing buyouts, partly because I never had a great run having radio hits. So I'm flowing with what has worked for me. So
And
I'm not saying that my approach is the right thing for everybody. I'm just saying it's right for me now.
absolutely. Well, it's called Real Life Wednesdays because not everything goes according to plan. Um,
Yeah.
so that's part of the value of this thing. Just talking to people and knowing that their paths may be crooked, but eventually they get to
Hmm.
where they should be. Speaking more about the television stuff, I mean, you've done music for Tell Me a Story, for Nashville, which we worked on a ton, for Greenleaf. You've done so much music um, for those programs, but also you've done some programs where it was like auditioning for television programs. The one that comes to mind was, remember that when uh, we were doing some things, like the singing for the Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Yeah.
That is,
Yeah. Did you work on that with me?
oh yeah, yeah. I said that, sang the "All I Do Is Win, win no matter
Oh,
what."
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, so that's a situation of where like there's a pilot, and they know it's music heavy, and they might try out 3 or 4 different people, um,
And there's
to
no
to
guarantee that
see.
you'll get a cut, yeah, or there's no guarantee that you'll get the job. It's like an audition.
Well, but it was a paid audition, so I got all the fees, which I was fine with. I would have done it if they said, "You're not going to get this. Do you want to just do these 4 songs?" I would have said, "Sure."
Mhm.
So it was I still had the fees to where, but I was very, very disappointed that I didn't get the show. But now talking with the guy at Lionsgate, and also seeing the show, I was like, oh, you know what? I can honestly say I wouldn't have been a good fit. It's just it was way more Broadway than I thought it was going to be.
Mhm.
I wish I had asked them for a lookbook. Like I wish I'd talked to a set designer or a costume department, um, because what I was imagining in my head was very different than if I'd have just if seen something where they said this is how the show is going to look, I would have said thank you. That's very helpful. So I did a much more organic, emotional, vibey kind of thing, and they wanted a little bit,
They wanted to
a
clean
lot
it
more.
up a little bit, I
They
think.
wanted really clean,
Yeah.
really squeaky clean, which I could have done. Um, Yeah, but you don't get all the stuff. I mean, I just wrote a couple versions of a for a main title for a show,
Mhm.
and didn't get it. But sometimes you do,
Right.
and there was no writing fee for that. Sometimes there's a fee and sometimes there's not.
Hey, I've got because we're approaching the end of the hour. I've got just a couple quick questions, and then I'm going to open it up
Mm-hmm.
to all the
Mm-hmm.
students here. So, I mean, we haven't talked anything about your influences, about like the music you listened to as a kid. Do you have any must listen to records that you think like informed who you are as an artist, that you feel like every single music student should listen to, every single contemporary music student? Is there anything that that a record that really moved you, or
I'm gonna say no. I mean, I'm gonna say that I have records that move me, but I'm gonna say that I do not consider. I'm just trying to think of this. Here's what I would suggest, and here's what I've done. This happened. When I was younger, people would be referencing older stuff, like things that was made before I was born or something. Like a Beatles song or Rolling Stones song or Everly Brothers song, or different rock bands and muscle shoals. So what I would do is anytime somebody referenced a song, I'd write it down, or referenced an artist. And then when I would get it a couple of times, like, okay, this is the second time in the 2 months that somebody said Lady Madonna piano, and I don't even know what Lady Madonna piano is. I better go figure that out. So back then I'd go buy the CD. Now I could make a note on my phone and listen to anything in the world on Spotify. So that's what I do. And so if anybody references a certain sound or a certain keyboard part, a certain kind of mix, a certain kind of song, then I immediately just make sure I put it on a list, like listen to. I don't even have to remember who said it. But anything that starts coming in the radar, I do.
just so you have a in your library, you if someone wants that specific thing, you know at least a direction in which to head, and they can kind of.
Yeah, it's come across my radar. And then the other thing is, I like asking, like finding music and asking friends and people I respect. Like, I think it'd be maybe kind of silly for me to just spout out titles to you guys, but I would say, if you hear an ad and you go, man, that's a really cool song, who did that? And then you realize that it's Canned Heat, Up From the Country. I thought it was a new song that was actually done in the 60s. Well, if that did something, if that moved you, go find it. Like, go deep on Canned Heat. If you hear a Beatles song in a movie and you go, oh, wait, what record was that off of? Then go find that record. And then don't be, the other thing is, like, don't be, I don't think there's any such thing as guilty pleasures when it comes to music.
Mm-mm.
If you love it, you love it. And it doesn't matter if it's Insane Clown Posse or Joan Baez, both of whom I've played on, you know, and that's a whole hour on the
Oh man,
ICP
it's
session.
saying clown posse. I gotta do that one.
Uh, but it doesn't matter, because if you like it, you like it, and let it roll over you, but stay current. Another thing I do is I'll turn on the radio or turn on XM in the car, and I'll start at the beginning, which is like 40s or whatever, and then I'll listen to the end of one song, and I'll think about what each instrument is doing, and listen to the way the mix is set and the kind of lyrics. And then when that song is over, if I'm not interested in the next song, I'll hit skip, and then I go to the 50s. Then I hear that song. If I hate it, I still have to listen till it's over. If I'm still engaged, I'll listen to the next one. And then if I hate the one after that, then I can switch. But I'll just do that for a couple of weeks in a row. And I'm going through, classic country, the decades, um, you know,
It's like reading an encyclopedia almost. You're just in
y-
constant study, which is awesome.
and I'll go through metal and EDM and like Turkish pop and the whole range, and it's just like, more and more input. And I try not to judge it as good or bad, but just observe what it is.
Mhm.
I certainly have my opinions about what's good or bad or what I like, but when I'm doing this exercise, I'm just trying to be an observer and take it in. And I think with what I'm doing now, which is somebody like with TV show, with the TV thing, they're just saying we've got to have somebody that makes sure this thing is right.
Hmm.
And whether it's like I did the Patsy Cline Loretta Lynn thing, and it's like it has to look right, it has to sound right, it has to be right, it has to be authentic. And
Hmm.
so I would spend 6 weeks just going deep dive on Patsy Cline Loretta Lynn and a classic country song, and then like I just got a thing from Netflix, like writing a song for it's like a cowboy song, like so I'll go listen to like some cowboy music and go, okay, what are these chords like, what are these melodies like, what are they talking about, and just kind of do that. And then for this show Carnival Row, be like, we need a song that sounds like it's like Shakespearean lyrics, but the music is like a combination of like traditional Chinese and Appalachian folk and Irish pub, and it's a song about the brother who's in love with his sister, but she won't
Huh.
give him the time. And
Wait,
he
in love with
kills
his sister or a sister?
yeah, and his sister, and he kills her in her sleep, and as he's plunging the knife into her belly, he sings her this ironic and creepy lullaby. I'm like, well, there's a new one, you know. And then so you do it, and then like Hillshire Farms will say, we need to write a song about that makes people want to buy rope sausage.
I remember this. I remember that I
Yeah,
called you like a couple months ago. I was like, "What you doing?" You're like, "Writing songs about sausage."
yeah, and and we got it, and it worked. Or like we wrote a Christmas thing for Glade, that they used for 4 years in a row, and which is very, very different, and I've written those joke songs, like the um uh, oh, you've seen them, like the Belvedere breakfast bites, or like the um Irish Spring deodorant, and like they're so bad they're good, kind of songs,
Yeah.
just horrible, like really inappropriate or bad lyrics, you know or like really like cheesy, like this used to be like the worst cheesy 80s song in the world for this band to play at a wedding, and I mean, I just love like trying to fit the need.
Yeah.
um for
Absolutely.
this, like I just for this, I'm doing this Netflix show now, and it was like it had to be a song, the first song that a 15-year-old kid had ever written about this girl that he's got a crush on. So I have to think about like, what would that look like? He just started playing guitar, it's the first song he's ever written, so I'm playing like a character actor as a writer, which is very interesting to me,
Hmm.
and
Very,
completely different, by the way, a completely different muscle than trying to write something and pitch it to Gaga, which
right.
nothing wrong with that. It's just a completely different muscle and business approach.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's very flexible, and also it's and a fun job too.
Yeah,
Just
it's a lot of fun.
yeah, because it changes every day. Let me since we only have like 10 minutes or so left, let me open it up to the students. I'm going to unmute you, and if anyone has a question for Tim, feel free to ask. Does if anyone does, or yeah, jump in. Does anyone?
Sure. Um, I want to ask how, I don't know, you separate listening to music for pleasure or for work, or like what that looks like when you listen to music for fun in
That's a
relationship to
good,
your career.
very good question, and a valid one. And that's what I was alluding to in the guilty pleasures. That sometimes I'm just going to listen to this on the way. Sometimes I have to cleanse the palate on the way home. You know, I've been working on something all day long that I would never, ever, ever choose to listen to, and I don't want to lose my love for music. So when I drive home, I'm going to listen to something that really feeds my soul, even if it's something that I discovered when I was 16 and I still love. You know, so I think that you're absolutely right. There's sometimes that I figure like this is part of my job. I'm going to go to Spotify and I'm going to go to top hits of around the world. I'm going to listen to 20 songs. Here I go, and I don't like them all, And then sometimes I say I want to put on a Chet Baker record and turn the lights down low and just veg on the couch, which is a completely different reason.
Mhm. Cool. Someone else? Yeah, Ella.
When you were first entering the music industry, was there anything that you found that you had to do to like make money or something that you didn't necessarily enjoy? And if so, how did that help you further your career?
That's a good question. I think I have a certain level of humor and enthusiasm that Mark has tons of, where I can like, and like Mark is a fun guy to work on something horrible with, because we can always you can always find the fun in being with people. You can always find something to learn from it. And I think the danger is of doing it too long. You know, I've had gigs with artists who weren't so great musically, or were really kind of mean or terrible humans, and but I didn't stay in them long enough that I quit liking people, or I quit liking music, or I quit liking myself. So I think you have to do that. You have to do. There's no way that like this show I'm working on now, I wouldn't watch, but I'm grateful for the gig. You know, and I get a certain amount of joy knowing that. Like my 10-year-old daughter has watched a few of these shows as I've done the score. She loves it, you know. So I think there's a bunch of 10-year-olds out there. They're going to go nuts over this, you know. And then I can get joy and satisfaction knowing that this is not my cup of tea, but there's a bunch of soccer moms or grandmas or 10-year-olds who will like this.
Right. Cool. Hey, I've got one quick thing for
Yeah.
you. I see all these, you know, I've been in that studio quite a bit, seen it change quite a bit. What is your current favorite instrument in your studio? Can you show us? Because there's like
Well,
so many instruments in there, but
my current favorite is probably the Mellotron.
oh,
Which I just love. I'm so glad I got. But do you want me to show you?
yeah, let's see.
I just This is an antique pump organ that I use a lot, and then I've just got like guitars and stuff on the wall, um, and then I have this,
Wall of synthesizers,
yeah, which
mini synth.
and pedals, just a bunch of pedals, and then and here I got some more stuff and sax working. And then over here is with the Mellotron.
The Mellotron is the white thing in the bottom, everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, very
And
cool.
the coolest keyboard out of no.
Yeah.
This and
But
also
but here's another answer to that, is that people, and I've collected a lot of instruments over the years, and I have a lot of endorsement instrument. Like Roland gives me a lot of stuff, and I've had a lot of things I've gotten for free, guitars I've gotten for free. But still, like, I don't think gear should ever be the reason. Like, seriously, I have a laptop rig that I take with me, like back in the day when I could get on a plane and go to LA and go to set. Well, I don't know what that's going to be like now, but I've got a laptop and an Apollo and a little keyboard controller, and pretty much can do almost everything that I can do here. So I think having Logic or Pro Tools and some plugins, Rolling Cloud for $20 a month, Spitfire free, tons of them. You know, uh, don't complain about not having gear, because if you
I
got a
think
laptop, you got the gear.
I think all these students have at least Logic on their computers. A couple have Pro Tools as well. But any other questions for Tim? Anyone? Great. Well, if there are no other questions, Tim, I sure would like to thank you again for taking the time to hang out and give your knowledge and your life experience to these kids. They're people that I care a lot about, and we
Yeah. Hey,
really.
I'm curious. I want to know what you guys are listening to.
Oh yeah, hit them up. Tell them what your favorite stuff, what you're all listening to.
And it can be new or old. I'm
Okay.
just curious.
I listen to a lot of guitar players, but that's because I'm a guitarist. But like recently, Andy Timmons a lot. It's kind of random, but him and like yeah, a lot of other just guitar players.
I've been listening to some more Carole King lately.
Wow.
Mm.
Mark, what was the guy that you recommended to me? What's his name?
Oh,
The folk guy, mandolin player.
oh, Sam Bush.
Yeah, that guy. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's
I've
great.
been listening to this album by Big Thief, 2016. Go on.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
Ella, Eduardo, Tomomi, Sophia.
I've been listening to a lot of like story-based singer-songwriters recently that like experiment with like a lot of prosody in their music. Yeah. Um, I've been listening to a lot of Ben Rector and Cody Fry.
Cool. These are all good. I'm glad this is being recorded so I can fast forward to this part and write all these down and explore your brains.
I mean, I think one thing that's great, like for you, my kids do this with me and my friends do this with me. I probably get 1 or 2 songs a day between family and friends. And I think that's something you guys should be doing. Like, hey, check out this Carole King song. This is crazy good. Or check out this guitar riff at Andy Timmons did at 2:10 at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. You won't believe this. Or, just passing that around, I think is really. I think I've done more listening than practicing, to be honest. I've never been a big practicer, but I've always felt like as long as I was listening, because I don't have a lot of chops. I mean, like I don't know if you guys are musicians or whatever, but like I don't play fast. I can't. I don't play difficult stuff. I play really simple things that make songs better, and it's because I listen to a lot of stuff.
There's one thing that I've noticed from Tim's playing, and this runs with everyone who is like playing instruments on sessions, and it seems like such a simple thing, but it's not, because you don't hear people who aren't professionals doing this. It's like there very rarely is a comp like comping along to a track just a comp. Everyone is thinking of a part. Everyone's kind of like um, making a part that's like somewhat memorable. So like yes, it supports the song, but if you were to isolate them, like you might hear something every like 4 measures, or every time the chorus comes around, something that is a specific part. It's not just block chords, or it's not just like
Yeah.
jamming along. So
Yeah, and any you could solo any part of mine at any time, and it wouldn't be that exciting. But you put it together, and now it's become a thing. It's like building a puzzle or a house or something. So
mhm.
I think chops are overrated. Unless you want to be a jazz or metal, then playing fast is kind of not the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, again, Tim, thank you so much for spending time with us.
All
And
right, great to be with you guys.
awesome. Yeah, and we will Tim, if you can stick around after everyone splits
Sure.
up, I'll just catch up with you a little bit. But
Right.
thanks again, everyone.